Hey, this is your girl Mighty. We got a real special guest today, April Babcock. Hey, girl, how's it going today?
Uh, Going good. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, so I wanted to, bring this story and shed light to it, because it's a epidemic here in the United States, and so can you tell the audience who you are and where are you from?
My name is April Babcock. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland.
So can you tell us how did Lost Voices of Fentanyl come to life?
So, I'm the founder of a nonprofit organization, Lost Voices of Fentanyl. I started that about 18 months after I lost my son, Austin, to fentanyl poisoning. He died January 26th of 2019, and honestly, it just changed my life.
Yeah.
It
Were you aware at that time that he was dealing with an addiction, or it just you just found out when you got the bad news?
Well, I knew my son was suffering with a substance use disorder. He started at the age of 19, but like I tell plenty of people that interview me,
Hmm.
he started at the age of 19 and he was dead by 25.
Oh
In
wow.
in today's day and age, people don't have a chance to recover.
Hmm.
Before fentanyl was flooding the drug supply and before all these fake pills were flooding into America, people had a chance of recovery. In this day and age, you don't get umpteen chances of recovery. I'm in recovery.
Hmm.
I'm a lot. What killed my son, I can't tell you how many times I did what killed my son. I'm
Hmm.
here today to talk about it because fentanyl wasn't in the drug supply back then.
Hmm.
Doing a line of cocaine never killed anyone. Doing a little
Right.
bit of heroin never killed anyone. Popping a Percocet, popping a Xanax, doing any illicit drug really didn't kill anyone instantly.
Right. Right.
That happened after time.
Hmm.
People had decades of recovery and now you just don't get a chance to recovery. My son was robbed and he was poisoned. There's
Yeah.
zero safe dose of illicit fentanyl. And anytime anyone disguises a harmful substance in anything for another person to consume without their knowledge and it causes death or harm, that's the very definition of a poisoning. I
Yeah.
can't tell you how many people have no idea they're even consuming it. My son didn't know he was consuming it. And I really didn't know what fentanyl was.
Right.
And then when my son died, I made it my business.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like you said before, people would use it and it was like, like you said, people can recover. It was like a party drug, right?
Yeah.
But I think people throughout the time, they started using other forms to like, like the drug dealers, right? They want to make more money off their supply. So they start cutting things with different things, you know what I mean? And I think it's just so sad, you know what I mean? Because sometimes as parents, you go through the routines of daily life, work, school, after school activities, whatever you got going on, right? And what do you think are some of the red flags for parents that don't know that their kid is, involved with drugs and stuff like that?
Change of behavior and a new set of friends.
Hmm.
If you're hanging out with a group of kids that don't do drugs, then you got a whole new group of friends. That's a big red flag. And that was a red flag for me. And I knew it when I saw it. And when my son was 19, I saw it. Like
Hmm.
I did see them red flags. So change of behavior, moody, if they're sleeping a lot. I mean, it's kind of common sense things that a lot of
Hmm.
parents just overlook, but
Hmm.
you can't overlook it in today's world because kids are dying
Right.
and some of them are dying their first time trying it or experimenting. And that's not normal.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I think sometimes people, and I've heard a lot of stories too of parents that lose they tried it one time, or they get, like I said, you got to watch who you hang out with because you got these friends that sometimes give you drugs,
Yep.
and they'll just give it a try, and next thing you didn't make it,
I'm
home.
And it's a pill popping generation thanks to big
Hmm.
pharma. I mean,
Right.
a lot of these kids are trying a Xanax and dying, and their parents are prescribed Xanax. They think it's
Hmm.
no big deal. It is a big deal. If
Yeah.
it's not from a doctor prescribed to you, I tell young kids, you can't trust your friends. I've
Right.
met so many parents that their young child is dead because they got a fake pill from a friend of theirs. I mean, this is just not normal, but yet it continues every day. It's a common story. And I ask myself, why is this a common story? Our
Agreed.
government sucks. That's
Yeah,
why.
well, and not only that, but like this big pharmaceutical companies, they make large profits of like the Xanax, some of the fentanyl, that's medically prescribed,
It's the
yeah.
illicit fentanyl coming straight out of China to Mexican drug cartels
Mhm.
into America, directly
Right.
to kill us. I was just in DC last month. The China Select Committee had a hearing exposing China to the world, things that we've known about for years, but now
Mhm.
the China Select Committee, and these are Democrats and Republicans. China is giving tax breaks, tax write offs, tax incentives, and grants to all the pharmaceutical labs in China that are making precursor chemicals to kill Americans.
Wow.
And they even showed the websites directly for American eyes only. Like,
That's
this
a
is
good.
out of control. So, what is our government doing about it?
Exactly. And going back, there's, people that get addicted to like hydrocodone, and it starts off like that sometimes because maybe they do need to take it. You have a back surgery, your back hurts, chronic pain, and people get addicted to that stuff. And sometimes, you know what I mean? Now I feel like there's a little bit of a more laws that prohibit doctors to just give unlimited supplies of narcotics, where they used to give you 30, now you probably get 15, you know what I mean, after surgery type of thing, you know what I mean? So sometimes, I feel like, that can sometimes lead to some of those drug
Absolutely.
addictions as well. You know what I mean? So, um, did anyone get prosecuted in your son's death?
No, actually, the person that murdered my kid, and
Hmm.
he knew, he gave my son a hot shot. He knew my son was going to die with that cocaine. My son had no idea fentanyl was in it. He wasn't
Hmm.
even given an option to say no. Oh, no, I want cocaine without fentanyl. He wasn't
Yeah.
given that option. 3 months after my son died, the guy that killed him was locked up in Baltimore City with 54 grams of cocaine and 5.58 grams of cocaine and fentanyl prepackaged. That right there makes me know he deliberately knew what he was selling my son. And then, so that was 3 months after my son died.
Hmm.
But then he was let out of jail. And guess what? He was murdered in Baltimore City 6 months later.
Oh
Almost
wow.
9 months after my son died, he was murdered. So here's what I'm
Hmm.
saying:
Yeah.
if he was incarcerated where he belonged,
Hmm.
he wouldn't have been. He wouldn't have been a murder statistic in Baltimore. They still
Hmm.
haven't found his killer because guess what?
Hmm.
Drug dealing, there's nothing good coming out of it. This guy lost his life because he was a drug dealer.
Hmm.
Honestly, I'm not happy he's dead.
Right.
He was 25, just like my son. I saw his obituary. It was one line. It was sad. It broke my heart. He should have been incarcerated where he had a chance of recovery, a
Hmm.
chance to sit and think about what he did to me and
Yeah.
change his behavior without consequences. Drug dealers have zero reason to change their behavior because dealing illicit drugs, there's too much money to be had, and money trumps human lives.
Yes.
So, and it's
Well,
just sad.
right, and they say money is the root of all evil. I mean, granted, we need money for like basic necessities, right? To live, survive, but I think people tend to get so greedy and, and they just can't stop. You know what I mean? They just
Yeah.
want to make all this money and not worry and they don't think about the consequences of that,
Well,
right?
they'll think about it when they meet their maker because none of us are making it
Hmm.
out of here alive. So everyone is going to bow. If you believe in the Bible, which I
Hmm.
do,
Hmm.
every knee will bow. And
Yeah.
I'm not the person to judge anyone, it's God. I pray for everyone incarcerated for, and I know people are wrongfully incarcerated, but for
Hmm.
the people that aren't wrongfully incarcerated, I pray that everyone gives their life to Jesus Christ. Like,
Hmm.
at the end of the day, he's the judge. And this life is temporary. Heaven and hell, that's what I worry about because that's forever.
Right. And that's why I say we all worry about what people are going to say, think, or this and this and that. But at the end of the day, there's one person that could, Like if it matters to just one person, that's the one it really should be the most, you should be the most worried about. But people are gonna do what they do, and I feel like a lot of people who are using drugs, and are dealing drugs eventually end up in prison. You know what I mean? You're dealing
Yeah,
drugs, you're gonna get caught with drugs, possibly guns. You're gonna end up in prison. You're gonna use drugs. You're gonna start, if you can't support your habit, you're gonna start stealing. You're gonna start doing all types of things to get your access to drugs, and you're gonna end up in prison. You know what I mean? And if prison is a whole different world. You know what I mean? Because people still use drugs in prison.
I
And there's
know.
people that go to prison and don't use drugs and get hooked on drugs because of the environment of how chaotic it is. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why
So,
a
and
lot of
it's
people
mhm,
use, because they're trying to forget something. They want to
right.
feel a certain way or forget something, and I can only imagine being in prison. I wouldn't want to know I was there neither. So,
Right. I mean, I'm at home sometimes and I'm so bored. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to go do something. I can't imagine being locked down 23 hours a day for years. You know what I mean? I'm sure has to have some sort of effect, mental health effect on people. You know what I mean?
I mean, I really wish there was drug court in every county in every state, but it seems
Hmm.
like every state is different. Even every county in the state is different.
Well, not only that, but the price for it. You know what I mean? It's
Well, it
expensive
should
to
be
get
free.
counseling.
It should be
Exactly.
free. We got
It's
all this
expensive.
money from the opioid money.
Hmm.
And in my honest opinion, that money should be going towards helping anyone free of charge that needs help. And,
Hmm.
I don't know what they're doing with this money here in Maryland. I guess it's all going to harm reduction, handing out crack pipes and needles.
Yeah.
That's not helping anybody.
Right.
They
And
should have free 6 months treatment for free.
I feel
My
like they
son,
should
we couldn't
implement
afford it
those.
for my son.
Right. I feel like, it attacks a lot of the youth. So I feel like this high school should start having drug counselors, sadly, because,
They
you know what I
should.
mean?
I
You
mean, Big Pharma created pill poppers.
exactly.
That's
So I
their
feel
fault.
like
That's
there's
our
a
own
lot,
government. They're
the
the
biggest
biggest
drug
drug
dealers,
dealers
right?
of all.
Yeah. So what projects are you working on right now?
So I just started collaborating with All Source. They are the first FDA regulated and approved fentanyl testing strips.
Okay.
So I'm partnering with them. Um, I collaborate with Drug Induced Homicide Foundation. I support them in all their efforts.
Hmm.
Um, oh my gosh, this question's got me drawing a blank. I've got so much going on right now.
Yes. Well, I know you mentioned you were working in a documentary.
Oh, that's Texas documentaries. They're actually in the state of Maryland today. So when I get done from here, I'll be doing filming with them. So pretty much they film parents who have
Hmm.
lost kids to fentanyl, and they film people in recovery from fentanyl.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're actually doing a documentary. They're actually going to include my nonprofit Lost Voices of Fentanyl, because we have a national rally every year. This July 13th is my fourth national rally. So we have speakers on the mic all day, and then the last 2 hours we get a police escort and we take it in front of the White House,
Oh
because
wow.
really our government is failing everyone addicted
Hmm.
to fentanyl, and everyone who is dead to fentanyl, every baby that's died to fentanyl, every single
Hmm.
American that's dead to this poison. We can blame our government. They can stop it, and they choose not to. This isn't illicit fentanyl isn't made here in America. It's pharmaceutical labs in China, now in business with Mexican cartels.
Hmm.
China to deliberately kill Americans, and Mexican cartels because money trumps human lives.
Do you, in your opinion, what do you think is the solution to stop this fentanyl epidemic?
Label illicit fentanyl a weapon of mass destruction. Label the Mexican cartels a foreign terrorist organization. And I'm going to tell you what,
Mhm.
we are going to get them labeled foreign terrorists. And when we do,
Yeah.
they
So,
can kneel to God.
do you, for the people that have been incarcerated, the people that are behind those walls who are fighting drug addiction now, if you had a sentence of word of wisdom for them, what would that be?
Fight for your life. I'm sure everyone incarcerated has family that loves them at home. A lot of people have children. They need you. They want you. They want you home. I don't know how long your sentence is, if you have life, or I don't know. I've never talked to anybody in
Mhm.
prison before, but people love you. People care about you. And fentanyl is going to kill you. It's only a matter of when. It's not if you're going to die, it's when are you going to die. So you got to fight like hell for your life to be alive.
Right.
And I can't imagine the withdrawals from fentanyl
Mhm.
because I was hooked on M30s. So I was up to 180 milligrams a day. And that pretty much was hell for me. And I
Yeah.
know fentanyl is a million times worse. I hear the withdrawals, you hurt in your bones, like your teeth
Yeah.
hurt. Like
Yeah.
that is so sad to me. And I'm sure prisoners don't they don't get real help.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
This is a broken world. It's a broken system.
Mhm.
For me, like after losing my son, I could go through withdrawals all day. Losing my
Mhm.
son, that was it for me. I
Mhm.
fell on my knees to God literally every day for the first 18 months after his death because I wanted to just die and be with him. So, fight like hell. I fought like hell after my son died. It's been over 5 years since he died. I'm still here standing, and people do recover. If you have breath in your lungs, you have a chance to recover, and people can do it. I've seen it. I pray for them because I know it's not easy and it actually breaks my heart.
Yeah, it is, and it's sad because it's people in these situations are powerless against their own flesh, and not only that, but the people around them are powerless because you want to help so bad, but you know that you can't really help them unless they want to help themselves. You know what I mean? So you know what I mean. Like I said, there's a solution to everything in this world except for death. You know what I mean? So whatever problem you're going through, whatever situation you're going through, you're gonna get through it. There's a solution for it. It's not going to be an easy solution. Maybe it's a difficult one, but there's a solution for it. You know what I mean? And you just, like you said, you can fight for your life, whether it's through addiction, through anything. You know what I mean? You just got to always fight for life. You know what I mean? Because life is like the biggest blessing you can get. You know what I mean? Just being alive and being able to experience another day is just another opportunity you get to change things. So, but April,
Yeah.
I really appreciate you taking the time with us to share your story with us. I'm sorry that you went through this, and I think you're a blessing to other parents and people that need to hear this message because, a lot of people, you could have easily lost yourself too, and relapsed, and done all types of
Could have.
things, but you're using that,
I
that,
made a
that
conscious
pain.
decision.
Hmm.
And I do want to point that out. The day my son died, before his body was still laying in the bed in the
Hmm.
house, I made a conscious decision on that front porch. It was either drugs or God. It's a conscious choice. You have to make the choice. I chose to run to God. I could be dead right now. I probably would be dead right now if I ran the
Yeah.
drugs. But
Yeah.
I knew I just there's a reason why I'm here. I'm meant for these days. God knew my son was going to die from fentanyl, and everybody has a choice. I know 7 mothers that have committed suicide after the loss of their children because grief is debilitating.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, those 7 mothers that did that, they weren't running to God with their grief. He
Right.
is the only person. And if it's not God, whatever your higher power is, for me,
Hmm.
it's God, it's Jesus Christ. But
Hmm.
you have got to give it to your higher power. We can't do this on our own. It's
Exactly.
impossible. It really is.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like, if you don't have a higher power, then, you have to find it within yourself to get that strength to keep pushing forward,
You know what I want to know?
Mhm.
You know what I think? We need Jesus back in our lives. Why are we not handing Bibles out in elementary schools? But guess what? When you get locked up in
Mhm.
prison, don't they hand out Bibles in prison? So they
Yeah,
wait till
yeah.
people are incarcerated to give them a Bible. See,
Mhm.
this world needs Jesus, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah, I agree. If you pay attention to the system closely, you know what I mean. they keep our kids in school for 8 hours a day. You know what I mean? You can't take your kid out without their permission. You know what I mean? You can't. They go in buses just like in bus. They go to buses in prison. You know what I mean? So what are they setting? What is the structure they're building? You know what I mean? It's like and then we go to work and we slave for 7 to 8 hours. You know what I mean? And who is it benefiting? We're losing time with our families. We're losing time with people are so busy sometimes and can't even see the simple signs in your children because you're so busy, with work or whatever else you got going on. You know what I mean?
Can I
So
add one more thing that I
yeah, yeah.
left out when you asked me the question about what could I tell parents are
Oh yeah,
warning
yeah,
signs?
yeah,
I'm going to suggest that every parent make sure their child does not have the Snapchat app on their phone. They are the number one culprit for these young kids dying. I have met literally hundreds of mothers that have lost their kids because their kid bought a fake pill from Snapchat.
oh wow.
And I know it's all social media platforms, but
Hmm.
Snapchat is like Satan.
Yeah. Yeah, well everybody, needs to be mindful of that and be monitor their kids' accounts and all that kind of stuff. But I agree there's, certain level of maturity you should be allowing these your kids to access to certain things. I know there's some kids that have no filter on their phones, no parental guidelines, and I'm like, and just because their parents just don't know, you know what I mean? So I think that's really important to point out to parents. So, but April, I won't take much of your time. Do you want to send any shout outs to any people?
I have a lot of shout outs.
Hmm.
Forgotten Victims of North Carolina, Drug Induced Homicide Foundation, the Never Alone Nick Rucker Foundation. There's just too many. Fentanyl Victims, North Carolina, Barb Walsh, the DEA One Pill Can Kill campaign, which is great, especially for our youth. I don't know how good it really helps
Hmm.
adults, but it's a great campaign for the youth. Um, Free AK. He's been in there long enough.
Yeah, let that man go already.
So, but
But I'm
thank you
looking
so much for
forward.
having me on.
You're welcome, and thank you so much for sharing your story. I know it's somewhere deep in your heart. I know it's always hard to talk about because it just is a constant reminder, you know what I mean? So, and thank you for doing what you're doing, and finding the strength,
Yep, you got to
within you.
fight. I
Yeah.
fight for the living. I don't
Hmm.
fight for my kid. He's dead. I fight for the
Yeah.
living to live. And this illicit fentanyl, it is a weapon of mass destruction. And it's about time they label it that to give
Hmm.
our government a bunch of tools in their toolbox that they don't have. They can shut it down.
Yeah.
They can shut China down at any moment, and they're not. So that goes to tell you how corrupt our government is.
It is, and we can go into that, and you'll just find it's like a it's like deep dive in there. You know what I mean?
I could
So
talk about it all day.
yes. Well, you have a good Memorial Day weekend. I'm looking forward to your documentary you got going on. Everybody, make sure we're going to have the links on the description. So make sure you guys go follow, subscribe, go donate to her nonprofit for this cause, and we're out, everybody. Thank you for tuning in.
Free AK, free AK, AK and publish.
It's that AKM music, man.